Okay. Good evening, everyone. Just want to take 1 minute here to talk about something that I just learned about just a few minutes ago. Um, if you look at and Maurice, can you see the image that I'm sharing that shows the two Cisco Academy courses?
Yes.
Okay. Um, right now, I don't have an explanation for the course on the left, the one that is titled IS-285 7A Routers and Switches 1. It was started on December 31st and finished on April 1st. Again, I have no idea what this is. I have no idea why it showed up for some students. Um, I'm thinking that maybe originally there were two sections of this class, and um, everybody got combined into a single section. So maybe another instructor created this and added some students to it. Kind of, jumping the gun, I guess, before the semester started. And anyway, if you happen to see two courses that are showing up on your Cisco Academy site like this, our course is the one that's titled 2021 Spring Term A IS 285. If you see this other course over here, you just need to ignore it. I'll be reaching out to someone this evening to find out where this course came from, and if there's anything we can do to get rid of it, because that's awfully confusing. So anyway, yeah, I apologize to anyone who ended up with this. That could have been a source of confusion when it came to accessing quizzes. Because if you went into this course trying to access like the modules 1 through 3 exam, the exam wouldn't have been activated, because it's activated in our course over here. So again, if you see this other course, just ignore it. Maurice, did you have this other course show up in your academy?
I did. So I do have a question. So I did the questions in that one. So in my grade, I see that my grade is in there, but it has, I can't remember the top term, but it's showing that it wasn't turned in.
Okay, and what was that again? I'm sorry.
Okay. So let me see if I can pull this page up real quick.
What quiz was it? I mean, was it a
Uh,
quiz or?
right, the quiz for the first week.
Oh, okay. Um, huh. Okay, I will make a note to check on that. Um, and get back to you. I'll have to check my grade book and make sure that it, didn't show up in the, or, to see if it did or did not show up in the correct course. If somehow you took it through this other course, I'll have to uh, get in touch with somebody and try to figure out how to gain access to that course so that I can pull your grade from there. So, um, so evidently that's your student number two, that I know of. So I'm sure there are others that had this other course as well. Extremely confusing, and um, if I guess I'll say this: if anyone contacts me within the next couple of days, and it will have to be soon, uh, because I can't blanket, give blanket permission to accept any work more than 7 days past the due date. But what I will give exception to here is anyone who did not submit the Unit 1 assignment, or, well, rather, I should say not the assignment, but the quiz, because the assignment piece of it really wouldn't matter. But if you didn't submit the quiz because this other course was showing up and, you know, basically uh, caused confusion that kept you from being able to figure out how to access the quiz, if that applies to any of you, please send me a message or an email, and I will give you the opportunity to still take that exam and get full credit for it. So again, that only applies to the exam because the assignment really doesn't matter. That's not submitted through the Cisco Academy. That's something totally different. So So even if you access the course learning materials in this wrong, this other course, it all would have still been the same, and so you still should have been able to get your work done and submit the assignment. The only problem would have been the quiz. So again, if this course contributed to you not getting the Unit 1 quiz, which was the modules 1 through 3 exam on the Cisco Academy, if this rogue course contributed to you not getting that submitted, email me or send me a message and I'll accept your late exam. Okay, good deal. Well, I'm glad I got this information. I mean, I just got this just minutes before starting this meeting, so I'm glad I did, because that obviously is affecting more students than I even realized. Now I'll move on at this point to talking about what I initially had planned on talking about during this meeting, and that is assignment instructions. I'll say first off that I know that there is a lot to this course. It's just it's just the way it is. It's just the nature of things. We definitely want to use the Cisco Academy for these routing and switching courses, but they do introduce an additional level of complexity in trying to on the student's end and trying to figure out exactly what it is you need to do. Generally, once you get a good handle on it in week one, from that point on, everything moves smoothly. But and so that's kind of the point of one of the points of this discussion here is to help facilitate that, so you guys understand what you need to do in future weeks. But the instructions are here, clearly stated out in each assignment, and you just have to pay real close attention to what's going on, because there's just a lot of little things to take note of. First off, when you're completing your assignment each week, one of the first things you want to do is create a Word document and name it according to this structure here, Unit 1 _ your last name. What you will use this document for is you will use it for screenshots, and you will also use it to answer any questions if there happen to be any questions assigned. There aren't always questions assigned each week, so keep that in mind. So looking at Unit 1, Assignment 1, the next step here was to complete the lab on slide 193 and copy the reflection questions from the end of the lab into your Word document. Now, I think most everyone got this part right, although a couple of students got questions from somewhere else, and I couldn't even tell where they came from, but they weren't from the lab on slide 193. But again, most students got this correct and answered those questions and did a good job. Of course, this lab only involved working on your personal computer. You didn't have to use Packet Tracer or anything. So you just used your personal computer, and then you copied and pasted the questions into your Word document and then answered those questions there inside your Word document. The next step here on the assignment said to download and complete these 3 Packet Tracer labs. So we're going to take a look at this real quick. The 3 labs were on slides 255, hi, I just submitted someone, or just admitted someone into the meeting. I'm sorry I didn't catch your name before I clicked on it, but anyway, we're about 10 minutes in at this point, so I am recording this, and you'll want to make sure that you go back and watch the recording to catch the first 10 minutes. But so what I'm talking about right now is downloading and completing the Packet Tracer labs on these slides. Okay, so a couple of things, or a few things about that, I guess. First off, let me open up a window to the Cisco Academy. hang on one second. I'm sorry here. I'm trying to figure out the best way to share this. Screen 2, that'll work. Okay, there we go. So I need to log in real quick. Okay, then I'm going to launch the course. And take note that mine's going to look a little different from yours because obviously I'm the instructor, and but for the most part it looks very similar. So if I scroll down to this course content section and click on Introduction to Networks course, this is where all of your learning materials and the labs are. So going back to Canvas, looking at the slide number, so the first lab was slide 255. So going back to the Cisco Academy, if I go to 2, 5, and 5, and that'll take me directly to this packet tracer activity. Let's see, I'm sorry, hang on just one second, guys, I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. So we have two links here with this packet tracer activity. The first is a PDF version of the lab instructions. You can always click on this to have kind of a separate document with the instructions, and that's separate from packet tracer in case that's easier for you to work with. Of course, the instructions are also in the packet tracer activity itself. So when you have a packet tracer lab like this to complete, you're going to come in and click on this link to download the packet tracer activity. Okay, one thing to be aware of, sometimes, and this doesn't happen with most labs, but sometimes there will be a third window that opens up with packet tracer, and it opens up, it's very confusing, and I don't know why the Cisco Academy hasn't fixed this because it's been this way for a decade. But what happens is that window comes up behind the other two windows, and so you're looking at it and you're like, okay, I can't do anything. But if you come down here, move your cursor over the packet tracer icon on your taskbar, you'll see there's this third window here that was hidden, and it's not even necessary. All you have to do is just click on cancel. I don't know why it's there, but once you cancel that, at that point you can then do what you need to within packet tracer. So a couple of things about packet tracer just real quick. I'm not going to spend much time on packet tracer because that's really not the point of what we're doing here. We're looking at the specifics of how your assignments have to be done, and making sure you understand how to follow the instructions each week. But in order to configure switches or routers, normally you can come in and click on them and get to the command line, and when this window pops up, you just click on it and hit the enter key on your keyboard, and you'll be at the command prompt so that you can start configuring the device, whether it's a switch, router, whatever it is. There are some labs, however, where they want you to practice consoling into the switch. So what this method here that I just demonstrated is more similar to like if you connected to the switch over your network by the switch management IP address. And then consoling in is totally different. With consoling in, you would, in the real world, you would be physically at the switch or the router, and you would have a cable that you would serial. Well, there's different types of cables, so I won't get into that. But you would have a cable connected from your computer, your laptop, to the switch or the router, and the port on the switch or the router that you would be connected to would be the console port. So some labs want you to get more of that real world feel for how that works, and anytime that's the case, what you'll be doing is you'll be selecting a console cable, and I can't do that in this lab because it's not needed, but or the console cable may already be selected for you, and it'll be a light blue cable that doesn't have a direct connection like this. It'll be more of a semicircle connection, so it'll come out from the PC and go around to the switch, and it'll be plugged into the console port on the switch. And when you have that, what they're wanting you to do is they're wanting you to use a terminal emulation program and connect into the switch that way instead of just clicking on the switch. So just keep that in mind. If that is the case, the lab will give you instructions on consoling in like that. At least the first one does. After that, the assumption may be that you already know how to do it. But anyway, so just keep that in mind. If you ever click on the switch or a router and it says the config is locked, then that means they're wanting you to go through the PC to connect. Okay, so when you download a packet tracer activity like this, one thing I want you to notice here, if you look up top, this file has a .pka extension, and that stands for packet tracer activity. Whenever you download a file like this, you have to make sure that you keep the file extension the same. If you change it, I won't have access to any of your work. The .pka file, that format, basically contains the activity instructions, and it will keep track of what you have completed with respect to those tasks. We can look here at this other window in Packet Tracer and click on Check Results and go to the assessment items. And in this particular lab, these are the different assessment items that you have to complete for this lab. And so anyway, all of this is packaged inside that .pka file. And if you change the file extension to .pkt or .pkz, which are both perfectly valid packet tracer file extensions, it's just they're meant for something completely different. You can't use those with packet tracer activities like this. But if you change that file extension, then I'm not going to have any access to anything you did. And as a matter of fact, when you submit it to me, it's pretty much just going to be blank. There won't be anything there. So that's why it's really important to to make sure you do not change this extension. I'm going to close this and go back. So when Packet Tracer first opens up, when you click on the link in the Cisco Academy to download it, the first thing you should do is come up here to File, Save As. Okay, do not choose this Save As PKZ. That'll mess it up. You've got to choose Save As. And then when you pick your location wherever you want to save it to, do not change this line down here, the .pka file extension, the Save As type, and don't change the .pka extension here. You can change everything to the left of the .pka, so you can name it 255 dash your last name or whatever. I don't think the assignment gives any specific instructions on that, and save the activity. But again, if you change this .pka, if you submit something other than a .pka file, it's not going to be of any use. There won't be anything I can do with it. Okay, so I'm going to close this. And yes, question?
How you doing?
Pretty good.
I'm sorry I was a couple minutes late getting into it. Just make sure it was the exam you couldn't see for me. It wasn't these, but you were able to see these.
Okay, yeah, and I hit on that earlier before you got here. And let me ask you something real quick.
Yeah.
When you log into the Cisco Academy, do you see this course here on the left? Or
Yes.
You do. Okay.
That's what I click into.
Okay. Um, go. Well, just real quick, and you may want to go back and watch the first 10 minutes that you missed for more details. But this course is not valid. I don't know where it came from. I don't know why it's there. It's extremely confusing. I did mention earlier that if anyone got confused by this and was not able to complete the module 1 through 3 exam because of that, to let me know, and I will accept your exam late. But do not use this course. You need to be using this course over here, the 2021 Spring Term A. And again, I have no idea where this other course came from. I just found out about it like 5 minutes before starting this session. And so when we get done here, I've got to get in touch with someone and find out where in the world this thing even came from. But don't use this one. It's not valid. It's not, right now, it's not even, I don't even have access to it. So I don't know who set it up or what. The only one that I have any access to is this one here. And the only reason why I have this screenshot is because a student sent it to me earlier today. So I had no idea this other course even existed, and this explains a lot of the confusion. I mean, like I said, I had no idea it was even there. And so when students were saying they were having problems accessing the exam and it wasn't showing up, and I'm knowing that I did everything right on my course and got everything set up properly, and I'm thinking, well, what's going on? That my first thought is that, the student's looking in the wrong place or what, but, and it turns out that is the case, but the student had no way to know, and I had no way to know where they were looking because I didn't even know this course existed. So anyway, just ignore this course. Make sure you use the one titled 2021 Spring Term A. And so that'll answer your question there. Again, go back to the first 10 minutes of the video when I post it later this evening, and if you need more information. But I think that pretty well sums up what I said earlier.
No, it doesn't. I'm looking at it now. I got the 2021 Spring A IS 285.
Okay. I'm thinking that initially there were 2 sections of this course, so I'm thinking that maybe there was another section assigned to another instructor, and they maybe jumped the gun a little bit and created a course site and started adding students. You can look at it and see that the course was available as of December 31st. Well, the term hadn't even started then, and so I'm thinking that may have been what happened. And but again, I've got to get in touch with someone and find out. And but anyway, if I can, I guess let me ask you real quick: did you complete the exam in this wrong course? That module 1 through 3 exam? Lamar, are you still with us?
I'm sorry, I'm talking and I had it on mute. Because that's something. No, yeah, I did it like Sunday at 2, and I only did it the one attempt, so it showed me the results, and I ended up screenshotting and sending it to you, but you said you didn't see anything to move over, so I wasn't certain why that was, because it recorded my results.
Yeah, well, actually, I can tell you, I had no idea. You may have given me that information, but I understood it as something completely different, again, just because I didn't know this other course existed. Now that I do know it exists, I'll see if I can gain access to it and get any grades out of it. I should be able to. That shouldn't be an issue. I just got to figure out who set it up, or I can if nothing else, I can have our Cisco Academy administrator go in and give me access to that course and pull your grades. So it'll just take me a little bit of time to do that. But anyway, yeah, I mean, this explains every bit of the confusion revolving around the modules 1 through 3 exam. Again, I apologize for that. I just had I didn't know anything about it. But anyway, let's get back to packet tracer. So we took a look at 255 and showed you, how to download that and everything. Let's go back to the assignment instructions to just kind of recap where we were at here. So we have to, this was Unit 1, we had to download the Packet Tracer Labs on these 3 slides. We looked at 255. It says be sure to save your Packet Tracer, your completed Packet Tracer activity files to your computer. And notice it says don't change the file extensions. And I'll be honest, I've never had that happen. I've never had a student do that before this term. So I'm not sure where the motivation or whatever came from to do that. But again, don't change those because it'll do away with all your work. Then next it says for each Packet Tracer lab at the bottom of the window with the lab instructions inside a Packet Tracer, click on the Check Results button, and we looked at that a second ago, but we'll look at that again. Then click on the Assessment Items tab and get a screenshot of that tab. Then it talks about what shows there, and then tells you to paste all 3 screenshots into your Word document and label them clearly. So let's go look at the next lab here, 276. So I'm going to go to slide 27 and expand that. Go down to 276 and click on it. Okay, so here's the Packet Tracer activity file. So I'm going to click on that to download it. Okay, so what we just talked about, what we just went over, and this one has that window too. Remember, I went over this previously. If you open up a Packet Tracer lab and nothing's responding, look for this 3rd window and just cancel it, and then everything will work. But what we were just looking at on the instructions, let's go back to Canvas. So it said for each Packet Tracer lab at the bottom of the window with the lab instructions, and that is this little window right here. Click on the Check Results button and then click on the Assessment Items tab. So if we go back and pull up both Packet Tracer windows, so here's the Check Results button and here's the Assessment Items tab. So this screen here is what you're getting a screenshot of, and I need to be able to see everything. I need to be able to see this section here that shows whether you completed each required task or not. If you see a red X, that means you either did something wrong or you just didn't do it. And if you did something correctly, you'll see a green check there. So I need this information, but I also need this scoring information over here as well, because this is where I essentially where I pull your grade from. One note about this section, or additional note about this section over here, anytime you complete a lab and you come in here, you go to the Assessment Items tab and you look through, if you see a red X anywhere, now's your opportunity to go back and fix that, and that way you don't lose any points. So whatever it says that you've either missed or did incorrectly, go back and get it fixed, and then come back and look at the Assessment Items tab again and make sure you got a green check mark there for that item, and then save your file and upload it to Canvas. And that way you can, if you use this feedback right here, you can get 100 on these assignments every single time you do them, because you can use this to find out if you did anything wrong before you ever even turn it in to me. Did someone have a question?
I did. You have to redo the whole thing, or just the part you missed?
Just that one part you missed.
Okay.
Yes.
That answers your question from the other day. You asked me why. I thought I had to redo the whole thing, and it took me like 40 minutes for one of the modules. And I was like, I'm not going to read it.
Yeah. No, that wouldn't be worth it. But yeah, no. Before you submit it, take care of any items where you see a red X, and then save your file and upload it. And like I say, that way you you should get 100 on all of these lab assignments every time, because you've basically got not really the answer key, but you've got um, you've got a system here where it's grading your work before you even turn it in and letting you know if you've missed anything, and so why not take a few minutes and go back and fix that to get all the points. Like I say, it just makes it real easy to get 100 on everything. Other thing I do want to point out here, I'm going to close that. I mentioned earlier, when you download the Packet Tracer file, one of the first things you should do is click on File and Save As. Make sure you do not use this Save As PKZ. Use the Save As. And this is where you want to make sure you keep these file extensions the same. You don't want to change any of that. But anyway, I mentioned saving this when you first download it, but then as you're working in it and you complete work, keep saving it. Just at that point, you can click on File and Save, and that way you won't ever lose any of your work. And then, of course, when you finish your last step, the last thing that you have to do to complete the lab, whatever that is, obviously then you want to make sure you come back and save it, because so that it has all of your work, and then that final saved version will be what you're uploading to Canvas. So you don't have to complete these labs in one sitting. You can do part of the lab, save the file, come back in, open it up later on, and complete the file, or complete the activity by picking up right where you left off. You might want to make a note, if you ever do that, of where you left off in the instructions, like if you were on part 2, step 2, or whatever it is, make a note of that so you can come back in and pick up where you left off. But that's one thing that makes this lab environment very friendly, and you can save your work at any time and come back and finish at any time. Again, save often when you're working on these files so you don't lose your work. In case something happens, like if you have a power hit and your computer loses power and shuts down. If you just hit save like 2 minutes prior to that, then you're in good shape. You didn't lose much, if anything. So just kind of keep that in mind. Any questions on any other questions, I guess I should say, on any of this?
No, but that was very helpful.
Okay, good deal. Yeah, and a lot of this information, I tried to give in the welcome video that was posted back in week 1. I tried to give everyone enough information to get started without making the video too long. I mean, you know how that sort of thing is. If I post a 40-minute video, I mean, it's just reality. Most students aren't going to sit there and watch 40 minutes of it. And so I tried to give you enough of the information to get you going, but there's a lot of details that really have to be filled in, and a lot of times, or some of it, I guess I should say, is kind of you figure it out as you go along. I wouldn't say it's necessarily obvious, but it's fairly easy to figure out as you go along. And then, other things just take longer to figure out. And, if you happen to not attend one of the online office hours early in the class, like week 1 or week 2, if you miss that information where this kind of thing is gone over, it can make it a little more difficult on you getting through the course. So but again, once you get a handle on this stuff, it's easy to understand and use and to follow the directions. It's just a matter of getting that initial handle on it. I'm going to go ahead and close this activity. So the third one was 291. I'm not going to open that up, but it's the same drill. Save your file. Make sure you're not changing the file extensions, and make sure when you finish your lab that you get a screenshot of the assessment items tab so that I can see that. And of course, if you forget to get it, and you close your file, all you have to do is later on is open that packet tracer file back up and go back to the assessment items tab. Everything will be, since you saved your work, everything will be exactly as it was. And so you can get those screenshots at any time. This next activity here was just about completing the questions. So again, all you were doing was pasting the answers to those into your Word document. At that point, you needed to upload your completed Word document to Canvas, and basically what's in your Word document is, what was mentioned up here is your 4 reflection questions from this lab, your screenshots from these 3 packet tracer activities, and then your challenge questions from this lab here. And so that would have been everything that should have been in your Word document, nothing more, nothing less, just those items. And then after uploading your Word document, you then need to upload your completed packet tracer files. And so now the purpose in this is, if you upload a screenshot in your Word document of, for instance, let's say Lab 255, and say you had a couple items that you missed on the lab, and so you ended up with a 90% or something. If I have your packet tracer lab file, I can open that up and go in and actually look at your device configurations, and so I can give you feedback on what you missed, what you did wrong, and how you could have potentially corrected that. So that's the main reason for submitting those .pka files, is so that I can go back and do that. And then too, sometimes the packet tracer grading itself is a little harsh, and so if I can go into your activity file and see that, wow, you only missed doing one small thing and it knocked off like 15%, I'll make an adjustment to that and not and give you more points than what packet tracer is giving you. But if you don't submit your completed packet tracer file, if all you do is give me a screenshot, then all I can do is give you the grade that shows up on the assessment items screenshot that you gave me. So that's the importance of this. And then at the end of each assignment instructions, you'll see kind of a summarization of what you should be uploading. And here it's a single Word document. Of course, up here everything tells you what to put, what you need to put in that document, and then the 3 completed packet tracer files. So now if we move on here and look at the next assignment, and I just want to kind of point out that this is very similar, but there are a couple of differences here because we have a couple of different things going on. Notice it starts out the same with you completing your Word document. The next thing is it says to download and complete the labs on 465 and 471. So you'll just navigate to those slides on the Cisco Academy, download those packet tracer files, make sure you don't change the file extensions, and save those to your computer. Next, this is a difference here that I want to point out. When you see a lab like this where it says using packet tracer, complete the lab on slide 727, keep in mind the lab instructions will not be available inside packet tracer for this lab. That's your key indicator right there that this is not a packet tracer activity like the 3 you did in week 1. This is a lab that initially was intended to be completed in NetLab, but we don't have access to NetLab this term, so I've had to alter these assignments so that they can be done in packet tracer. So what you're doing essentially is, instead of building your lab and configuring items in NetLab, you're going to build your lab and configure the items in Packet Tracer. And so what you have to do this is the only case, or the only situation where this is the case, but I actually, for 727, I gave you a Packet Tracer lab file to start out with, and this is just a lab file that I created. If you click on the zip files under the assignment files section, if you click on this and open that up, let me go back to my downloads here. Didn't open up for me. Here we go. So if you go into this, you'll notice this one has a .pkt extension. That's because, again, it's not a Packet Tracer activity file. This is just a normal Packet Tracer file, and it's just where I opened up Packet Tracer and went in and set your lab up for you. And what I mean by that is I got the devices that you need for this lab, which is just a single switch and a PC, and I went ahead and put them in place for you and connected the two with the appropriate cable, which is just a regular patch cable. This is the only lab where I give you where, you know, as far as the labs that were intended to be done in NetLab, this is the only one that I set up for you initially. In future ones, you'll have to come in and add your own devices. And it's very easy to do. You just come down here to the bottom left-hand corner and go to whatever, you know, devices you're looking for. So what I did for the switch was I came down here to the switches and clicked on it. And then you should always use, for this class, you should always use the 2960. So you just click on it and then come up here into your lab environment and click, and it'll put that switch in place. If you need a PC, that's an end device. So you click on end devices, come down here and click on PC, click up here in the lab environment, it'll put it in place. So the only other thing that you're needing here is a straight through cable, which is this one right here. That's just a regular patch cable is all that is. You'll come up, you'll click on the switch. You'll want to make sure that you connect it to the right interface, and how you'll know that is by looking at your lab instructions. It'll tell you what interface to connect it to. And so you'll click on that interface to connect it, and then come over to the PC, click on it, and then you'll click on, in this instance, we're connecting a patch cable. The PC only has a single NIC, so you'll click on that to connect it. So that's all I did to create this lab topology for you. Again, in future labs, you'll have to create your own, and we'll look at one of those in just a second. But that's all there is to this. Now at this point, you just continue with the lab instructions and complete the configuration however it says, you know, whatever it says to do. Of course, you want to make sure you're saving your files. Let's see, let's go back. So that was 727. Now here's another one, and in this one you're going to have to create your own lab environment. So this is lab 737. So what you'll do is you'll come into the Cisco Academy, you'll go down to chapter 7, section 3, and it was 737. Okay, so here's another place where you can tell the difference. Notice there is no Packet Tracer file here. It's just a PDF version of the lab, and so that's another clear indication that you're creating your own. Again, in most semesters, normal semesters, you'd be doing this in NetLab, but that's not the case this go around. So you click on that, it opens up a PDF version of the lab. So in this instance, here's the topology that you're going to create. Your lab topology will always be up top in the lab instructions. So that's the topology you're going to create. So what you'll do is you'll go onto your computer and open up Packet Tracer. Once it opens up, you'll add your devices exactly as shown there. So we've got 2 switches. I'll go ahead and add those. We'll go back and look at this. Okay, so it doesn't matter how you orient them, but to keep yourself straight on things, it's probably best to do it how they do it in the lab. So then we've got a PC connected to each switch. So let's do this and add a PC. Okay. It's going to be a regular straight through cable, which is just a normal patch cable. Of course, at this point, I think most of you should know that, and actually, let me look at the lab real quick before I connect this. Notice it says it's connected to Fast Ethernet 06. So if I come back up here, I want to make sure I connect to Fast Ethernet 06 on the switch. Let's see, I was getting ready to say something that came to mind and I lost track. Anyway, maybe it'll come to me in a second. But this next PC, same thing. Let's look at here. It's connected on switch 2. It's connected to Fast Ethernet 18. So let's look at that. So we'll connect to the PC. Oops, hold on. I've got to click on a cable first. Connect to the PC. And then I done lost track of where I was at. Let's see, which lab was it? I'm sorry if you hear my dog snoring. He's getting kind of loud there. But what was it? Fast Ethernet 18. Okay, so clicking on the switch. Okay, so now I have those 2 connected. So now the only other issue I've got to deal with here is connecting the switch. Oh, I know what I was going to say earlier. Any time that you're connecting 2 devices that are normally connected together, and let me look and see, does it tell us? Yeah, Fast Ethernet 1 on both switches, so that's what I need to connect to. So Fast Ethernet 1 and Fast Ethernet 1. Okay, so this is what you'll do for that lab. Now you've got your lab topology in place. So what I was going to say previously was anytime you're connecting 2 devices that are normally connected together, you'll always use a straight through cable. In other words, just a normal patch cable. And you know, so obviously a PC to a switch, that's a normal connection. Switch to switch is a normal connection. An example of what's not normal, normally you don't have a PC connected directly to a router, right? Normally we're connected to a switch, and then down the line somewhere the switch will be connected to a router. But if you do ever for some reason connect a PC directly to a router, that's not a normal connection, and in that case you need to use a crossover cable. So just kind of keep that in mind. That'll be rare that you have to do that, but that's the difference between the copper straight through, which is a normal patch cable, and then a crossover cable. So at this point I've created the topology for the lab, so I can, you know, save my file, go up and click Save As. You want to leave the file extension the same. Again, this one is a .pkt because it's not a packet tracer activity. And then you'll just follow along in the lab instructions, which we opened up in our browser here. And you just follow the steps here and complete the lab. Okay, so next, this week's instructions say to upload your completed Word document to Canvas. Now, what's going to be in your Word document? You're going to have a screenshot of your assessment items tab from these 2 labs. There is no screenshot for this lab, and I think it notes that. Yeah, right here it says you will not include any screenshots from this lab because this is not a normal packet tracer activity. Same thing here with this one. You will not upload a screenshot. You'll just upload your packet tracer file. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 packet tracer files, and your Word document, which will have screenshots from these first two. I don't think there's any part in here that says you have to answer any questions. So that's all that will be in your Word document are those two screenshots. It says upload your completed packet tracer files for 465, 47, 1727, and actually 737 is missing down here. I've got to get somebody to correct that. Please double check, to make sure you've got those files. And so in total, let me read through this one and make sure I'm not telling you something wrong. During step 4, get a screenshot of the MAC address. Okay, so there's a screenshot that's got to be in your Word document. Be sure to label it. Keep in mind the instructions will not be available. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Download the lab instructions. Open Packet Tracer. Save the file. Complete the Packet Tracer, the lab and Packet Tracer according to the lab instructions. During step 4 of the lab, get a screenshot. Okay, so you don't have to upload this Packet Tracer file. You're just uploading the screenshot on this one. So there's just a single screenshot. So I had kind of skipped over that, but I'm glad I went back and read that. So that's why it's important to really follow closely along with the instructions, because each assignment will be a little different, but for the most part they're laid out the same. And this week's is probably the most potentially confusing of any of them, because we have two labs that normally you would have done in NetLab that you're having to do in Packet Tracer. So anyway, so this is correct down here. There are only 3 Packet Tracer files excuse me, that you'll upload, and that's these 3 here. For this one, there's just a screenshot, and then of course you have your Word document. And so that's it. If we move on, just take a quick brief look at assignment 3, you'll notice that it's not nearly as long and difficult or complex as week 2. So week 2 is just kind of a bit of an exception. But anyway, that's it. I think that's pretty much everything that I needed to go over with, over with you all on is making sure you save your Packet Tracer files correctly, making sure you understand you can go back and fix anything that's marked wrong before you submit it. That way you can get a perfect score on your assignments. Then just making sure that you're uploading things exactly as you need to upload them. And keep in mind, some students submitted big chunks of the lab directions for some of the labs in week 1. No need to do that. I've got my own copy of the lab instructions, so just include what's asked for in your Word document, which typically is just screenshots and answers to any questions that happen to be assigned, if there are any. Any questions on anything, guys?
No questions, because once again, it was very helpful.
Okay, good deal. Great feedback, and because of this little situation right here, I'm learning myself that this sort of thing is probably something that I should get into detail on in my office hour during week 1 anytime I teach this course. Never had this situation pop up. Right now I've got no explanation for it, but obviously the potential is there for it to happen. So this was a good learning experience for both of us here. For all of us, I guess I should say. Anyway, so that's pretty much it then. I'll go ahead and end this session and get the recording put up on the course site. And if you happen to run into any more questions, just shoot me a message. Remember, if you did not submit the modules 1 through 3 exam because of the confusion with that additional course site showing up, go ahead and go into the correct course site and do that exam, sometime within the next few days, and get that submitted. If you already did the exam in the wrong course, I'm going to get into that course somehow or another and get your grade out and get it transferred into Canvas, so you don't have to worry about that. There's no, do not redo the exam. If you've already done it once, you don't need to do it again. But if that's it, I'll let you guys go, and hope you have a good week. And like I say, if you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. I will mention one other quick thing. We do have an academic coach for this course. So if you find yourself needing, some real hands-on assistance, our academic coach is a great option there. His name is Dr. Eric Harmon. I posted this announcement here with his information. Here is his email address right here. You do have to schedule an appointment in advance with him, but he is available Monday through Saturday, 10 to 8. And if for some reason those hours don't work for you, I'm sure he would be flexible. But if you work Monday through Saturday, 10 to 8, and you tell him that, I'm sure he'll work with you. But if you can work within his schedule, that would definitely be best. If my suggestion is, if you think there's any chance that you're going to need assistance, go ahead and schedule an appointment with him, since it has to be done in advance. That way you'll have the appointment in place. If you don't need much from him, by the time the appointment comes around, if you don't need much from him, great. Take advantage of having his attention for a few minutes, ask him a couple of questions or whatever, and then let him know that's all you needed, and you're good. Because otherwise, if you don't schedule it in advance and then you wait until the weekend and you try to schedule something, he may be all booked up. And so just keep that in mind. But anyway, again, have a good week, and just let me know if you need anything. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Bye.